Right, today we're going to the last two suttas of this volume, 43, ST 43.14 and 15. They are two suttas of the same name, Ariyavasa Sutta 1, Ariyavasa Sutta 2. They are about the qualities of an Arhat, a fully awakened person. And the first sutta lists 10 qualities of this wonderful awakened person. And the second sutta lists the 10 qualities and also the details, right? Now you may say, isn't the first sutta redundant? I mean, it's just a short list of suttas. Well, truly there's a purpose why you have both the suttas. It's very helpful if we reflect why do they have these two suttas. I mean, the ancient elders, the very wise monks, I mean, they don't just kind of frivolously decide, okay, let's have this short one and this long one. There is a very important purpose for having two different suttas. The first sutta, I call it a reflective sutta. In other words, we reflect on the 10 points. But how do we reflect on the 10 points? You've got to know them first. So this is where it's good to study the second sutta, first Ariyavasa Sutta 2. This is what we're going to do today. The second sutta will describe in some detail what those 10 points are about. So once you know those 10 points, you don't have to recite the long sutta. You just kind of slowly go through the short one, Ariyavasa Sutta 1, and as you each point, you just kind of reflect on them and then let them come naturally to you. And if you forget them, it's okay. You go back to Sutta 2 and look at the details again. So that way you find you get used to the teachings after a while, and you follow what's called the oral tradition. You kind of internalize, you imbibe all these teachings, and you can use this for your meditation. Once you feel good and peaceful, you feel joyful, if you like this passage, you use this to help you attain that moment of peace as a priming, as a start to meditation. So where do these two suttas come from? Well, they're found in the Anguttara. A 10.19, that's the first one, and then A 10.20, second sutta. You notice the 10, means there are 10 qualities there. Ariyavasa means noble abidings. Arya means noble here. Noble refers to the saints, right, from the stream winners right up to the Arhats. But in today's listing, the 10 qualities describe the Arhat, the fully awakened one. Vasa is a kind of a verbal noun to describe practice, habitual conduct, way of life, or simply living. Now, although this sutta, the sutta number 2, talks about the 10 qualities of an Arhat, you might ask, okay, how would this kind of teachings help me? I'm not yet an Arhat. Well, it's always good to look ahead. Let's say we're on a journey. We like to, so let's say we're coming a mountain. I remember when I was a young kid in secondary school, we'll have to climb this mountain south of Malaya. And when we reach the village, you can see this mountain far away. So we have an idea, okay, that's the mountain we're going to climb. So you know your direction, you know your goal, in other words. So it's always good to know where we are going, what's our goal, so to speak, right? So Arhathood is the height, the climax of Buddhist teaching, of Buddhist spirituality. So even if we do not reach that high goal in this life, there are many of these qualities or parts of these qualities which can cultivate, and even those bit of effort will bring us great peace. And in fact, we just, for us, especially for lay people, you just need to constantly, habitually reflect on impermanence. And if you do that regularly, the Buddha says you will attain stream winning in this life itself. It's as simple as that. In other words, you habitually reflect on impermanence no matter what happens. And you find something wonderful happens to you. Nothing is that bad, nothing is that good, everything is kind of balanced and calm, and you begin to see things more clearly. And when you see things clearly, you're able to respond more effectively too. To respond to others means to show loving kindness. So it goes on like that. So in other words, there's always something there in the Buddha's teaching that we can look at and somehow be inspired to practice. Okay, so let's look at the sutta right away. It's got the 10 points, so might as well begin right away. This translation, the full translation is on page 184. A 10.20, the second discourse on the noble abidings. At one time the Blessed One was dwelling amongst the Kurus, near a market town of the Kurus called Kamasadhamma. Notice here, the narrator doesn't say the Buddha is residing in a big city. He says, he just simply says there is a market town named Kamasadhamma. Market towns, as you know, can be quite noisy, so monks don't reside in a market town. But it's a good place to collect alms early in the morning when people are just beginning to prepare for work. And then they feel good, they see a peaceful monk coming along and they start the day offering alms. You often see this in Bangkok and in Thailand, for example. It's so peaceful in the morning to go out for alms, and it is so peaceful to offer alms. It's so peaceful to meditate early in the morning. Right, there, so the Buddha is kind of staying in the forest nearby, not too far away from the town, not too near either. And not too far away means within walking distance for collecting alms. Not too near means the monks residing there would not hear the noise and activities of the town or the village. So the Buddha is sitting there in this quiet place outside Kamasadhamma. Oh, it is the place where the Buddha taught the Satipatthana Sutta also, isn't it? Okay, there the Blessed One addressed the monks, bhikshus, and the monk, Bhante, the monks replied. Okay, this little section is not, apparently is missing, so in the PTS edition, so we supplied from the other editions. The Blessed One said this: Bhikshus, there are these 10 noble abidings in which the noble ones abided, or are abiding, or will abide. Okay, here it's a wonderful time to learn Pali. First we start with the past tense, the aorist, then the present tense or present continuous, and then the future tense, right? So what the Buddha is saying, this is the way the Arhats will behave, right? They did that in the past, even before our Buddha's time. They're doing that right now. In the future, when there are Buddhas, they will do the same thing. Now this teaching is very important because very often we forget these little teachings, these simple teachings, which are so clear. That's all the Arhats need to do, these 10 points. But you find in the later Buddhism, people start talking about, oh, there is Arhats still have to become Buddhas. They need to do more, right? So they're kind of misinterpreting all these basic teachings of the Buddha. And the Buddha often tells us, please do not misrepresent me, says the Buddha. So here you are. Remember, the Buddha says that the Arhats, they've behaved in this way in the past, they are doing this now in its own time, and they will be like this in the future. So there's no talking at all about Arhats need to become Buddha anymore. It's just like you're in a university, you have graduated, and you might even become a lecturer, and there is one professor in charge of the department. You don't have to be all professors. You know? I mean, it's like saying all graduates must become professors before they actually succeed in their studies. It doesn't make sense, right? So, in other words, once you have graduated, you have passed your exams, you're qualified to teach. So there can be only one head of department, one captain in the ship. So there's only one Buddha. So this teaching should be repeated again and again to remind people, please do not misrepresent the Buddha, so that we attain true awakening in this life itself. So what are the 10? Continues the Buddha. So this is the thesis, the main idea. Here bhikshus, among is one who has abandoned the 5 factors. 2 is accomplished in the 6 limbs. 3 is guarded in the 1. 4 has 4 mental supports. 5 has put aside personal truths. 6 has completely given up seeking. 7 with untroubling thoughts, or he has untroubling thoughts or intentions, if you like. 8 whose bodily activity is stilled, who is mentally well liberated, who is well liberated in wisdom, right? So this is the typical structure of Anguttara Sutta. You have the theses, the ideas, the syllabus, here you are, 10 of them, and then the Buddha will explain each of them one by one. And what, bhikshus, are the 5 factors abandoned by the monk? Here, bhikshus, for the monk, sensual desire has been abandoned. Ill will has been abandoned. Sloth and torpor has been abandoned. Restlessness and remorse have been abandoned. Doubt has been abandoned. In this way, bhikshus, the 5 factors have been abandoned by the monk. Well, of course, you're familiar with the teaching. Once you know the Buddha is talking about the 5 mental hindrances here. And it's a good place to start. We're talking about meditation here. So the Buddha is saying, well, this is the first thing. The Arhat has completely overcome the 5 mental hindrances. The Arhat is no more troubled by sensual desire. Its opposite, ill will. The Arhat is not troubled by sloth and torpor. No, its opposite, restlessness and remorse. And the Arhat has no more doubt about the true teaching, about awakening and so on. Okay? So, in other words, the Arhat can easily meditate anytime he wants. So this is the first quality that he has. So in other words, here, there's no way we can say an Arhat is lazy, or has desires, or is angry. Right? So these are things we know would not happen in an awakened person, like the Buddha, like Sariputta and Moggallana and so on. So these are very important guides and hints for us when we look at the suttas. For example, you have the Chatuma Sutta, where you have a group of noisy young monks, and they were brought by Sariputta, I think. So the sutta represents the Buddha as scolding them, as telling them, says, oh, this sounds like a fish market, you're making so much noise. You have to go from here, you're too noisy. So we have to imagine, how did the Buddha say this? And we're talking about a teacher, we're not talking about a self-promoting guru or someone who is more concerned about his popularity than the quality of his students. So he told the students, hey, you're not keeping up to it, so you have to think about this. So he told the students to go away. In other words, he's saying, go and think about it, then and when you're ready, you come back. Because this is what I represent, the peace of mind. So, and they did that, and they learned something. So this is one of the ways the Buddha taught it. So this is where, as Dhamma teachers, we have to really understand our task. It's not easy. And one of our tasks is to, you might say, a kind of quality control, if you like, because sometimes we hear younger speakers or even old speakers saying the wrong things in Dhamma talk. For example, they might joke unnecessarily, or worse, might tell body jokes. crude jokes, for example, because sometimes they get so carried away, they become very overconfident. They feel, wow, the audience love them, or they respect the elders and so on, and they start lacking this kind of restraint. Then, of course, the cost will be very bad, because we might give the wrong message to the audience. People will say, oh, since this Dharma teacher said this, we can do this, or they could misinterpret the whole thing. So if you are a Dharma teacher yourself, then somehow you have to make a statement. You have to gently tell this person, or somehow communicate, say, well, this is not the way Dharma speaking goes. So, of course, there are times when we can be really nice and do all the correct things, but people still get upset by what we're trying to say. We have to face that. It's better for us to be blamed for doing the right thing than be praised for doing the wrong thing. Sooner or later, people will say, oh, you are right, yes, this teacher was right, we should have done that. So always remember, how will people remember us after we are dead? How will people remember us when they really have serious problems? You don't have to wait to be dead. People will say, yeah, this is the way it should be done. So this is the task of a Dharma teacher, in other words. Okay, the next point. And how bhikshus is among accomplished in the 6 limbs. So these are code words. The first one is called the 5 factors, and the next one is called the 6 limbs. Among accomplished in the 6 limbs means, here bhikshus, among seeing a form with the eye, is neither mentally pleased nor displeased. He dwells equanimous, mindful, and aware. Okay, so this is the first idea, right? So when you look at this keyword there, the eye, and then the rest you see ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, you know at once the Buddha is talking about the 6 senses. So let's look at the first one. Here, the 6 limbs refer to the 6 senses. The Buddha explains when this monk, when this Arhat sees something, he does not get excited, saying, wow, it's good, or he doesn't get sad or depressed, oh, I don't like this. So he neither like nor dislike, looks on calmly, peacefully. You might say, how is that possible? Well, it is possible if you understand what is called professionalism. If you're a true professional, like being a doctor, for example. A patient comes to see the doctor. The doctor doesn't feel happy or sad at the sickness of the patient. He examines the patient, or he sees an accident victim, blood all over. He neither gets excited nor feels sad. He's calm. He looks at the situation, assesses it, and then decides what to do. That's one example how to understand this. To be neither pleased nor displeased. He dwells equanimous. The mind is calm and clear. Sometimes this is said to be the mirror-like mind reflecting the situation. I mean, let's say if you are in this big building and you're working there and you know all those people there, and suddenly there's a fire. I mean, a real fire. You see smoke and you see the flames, and people start panicking, and that's why more people get hurt. So, if you're a good leader, you be calm. You won't get excited. You will tell people, hey, okay, go out quietly, single file, and so on. So you will save a lot of lives that way. So the equanimity here is not caring. It is a calm mind that's able to see the situation for what it really is. And notice the last phrase, mindful and fully aware. It's just like when you're driving. What do you do when you're driving? You know where the driver's wheel is and the brakes and all those other parts of the car. That's your mindfulness. And then you have this full awareness. You look in front, you know where you're going and where you are right now and so on. So you have mindfulness and full awareness in that way. So this applies to seeing. Okay. So, and the next one is to hearing, the ear, and then the nose, smelling a smell with the nose, tasting a taste with the tongue, feeling a touch with the body, recognizing a thought with the mind. Even when thoughts arise, just kind of calmly watching what is going on. And we do this in our meditation, don't we? Let's say as you're sitting down meditating, or doing your walking meditation, whatever meditation you're doing, especially, let's say it's easier to take one example, let's say breath meditation. You're watching the breath, you are at peace with the breath, you are mindful of the breath, and then you hear sounds. Maybe you're meditating in nature and you hear these birds making noise, especially if you love birds, so you hear a sound, oh, I know that's this bird by this name. But when you're meditating, you just say, okay, you just let the sounds come, let the sounds go. You're equanimous. You just let it come, you let it go. That's the meaning of equanimous, because you are focused on your meditation. So you're not caught up with any of those events at the six sense doors. Because in meditation, we want to build up this wonderful inner calm and clarity. And then when you come out of your meditation, all the six senses work beautifully. Then you're ready to be helpful to people, in other words, because you are better in attending to them, in listening to them, in other words. Right, the next, point number three. And how bhikshus is among guarded in the one. Here you have a very enigmatic phrase, the one, guarded in the one. I love this one because this solves a number of interesting problems, especially the translation of the word Bhadekarata. Bhadda plus Eka plus Rata. So one of the phrases that really troubled translators for a long time. Here, what does the one mean? Okay, let's look at the teaching here. Here, bhikshus, a monk is mentally accomplished by being guarded with mindfulness. In this way, bhikshus, the monk is guarded in the one. So the one here refers to mindfulness. The Arhat is able to maintain that mindfulness, hold it, keep it going. Right? So again, this is advice for us. Hold that mindfulness, or as we say, hold it. Yeah. So here, the one here means the one mind, ekagata, if you like. Now, when you look at the early Buddhist texts, don't be too worried about technical terms. Don't say, oh, this is what it means, and that's all it means, and you're stuck with that. It depends a lot on the context, right? So here, when we say the one mind, we can say it refers to mindfulness, it refers to stillness, samadhi. Scholars are debating how should we translate samadhi, and some scholars and monks say, we should not translate samadhi as concentration, it's better to translate as stillness. Yeah, I suppose you're quite right too. But people are so used to the word concentration, so you can use either one. The important thing is make sure you tell people what you're talking about. So here, mindfulness also can mean stillness. So here we guard that mindfulness, maintain that wonderful mind or clear mind that you have. So how does this apply to Bhadekarata? The word Bhadekarata has been translated in different ways, some sounding rather strange, because Bhadda is easy. Bhadda means auspicious, happy, fortunate, and Eka means one. Rata is a problematic word. It can mean night, as in Ratri, or it can mean one who delights, Rata or Rata in Sanskrit. So how do we translate this? One night of auspicious oneness, that sounds very right. I think the best translation of Bhadekarata would be one who delights in the auspicious oneness, one who enjoys jhana, one who enjoys his meditation. I think that would sound right if you look at what the sutta is talking about in the Majjhima Nikaya, right? So here Eka means oneness of mind, stillness of mind, samadhi, even dhyana, right? So we guard that peace of mind. keep it that way. Sustain it, keep it going. And number 4, and how bhikshus is a monk mentally supported in 4 ways. Notice the word that's mentally here. Mentally supported in 4 ways. Having considered, he reflectively uses one thing, or uses a thing if you like. Having considered, he endures another. Having considered, he avoids another. Having considered, he removes another. In this way, bhikshus, the monk is mentally supported in 4 ways. Now there's a note 69 there. The note refers to the introduction. You find in the introduction, the note will say, look up the Sabbasava Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. In the Sabbasava Sutta, there are like 7 of this kind of practices, right? So here 4 of them are mentioned. It's 4 the key ones, if you like. Here is regarding how the Arhat would live as a monk. Look at the first one. He reflectively uses one thing. Here, the one thing refers to what are called the 4 supports. So whenever what are the 4 supports? You have his robes, alms food, resting place or lodging, and medical supplies, medicine and so on. These are the 4 supports of life. So in other words, when a monk is eating his food, he's very mindful. He reflects why he's eating the food. Okay, I'm taking this food, which is given to me with faith, because people have faith in me. I'm a monk and I'm supposed to be meditating and awakening in this life. That's one reflection. Another one is why I'm wearing this robe. I'm wearing this robe to protect myself from the inclemencies of the weather, from insects and other pests, and so that I look decent in public, and I may practice the Dharma. Okay, and why am I staying in this lodging? This lodging is not to have pleasure in it. It's just to protect me from the weather, so that I can meditate and live another day to practice the Dharma, so that I awaken in this life. And then there is this medicine. Mindfully I take this medicine so that I'm healthy and I won't be a burden to others, and so on, so that I can fully practice the Dharma to awaken in this life. So the Arhat naturally reflects in this way. And even if we are not Arhats, or we are not monks, even we are lay people, it's still useful for us to understand why we take food, how we should take food, and how to make use of the things we have, so that through our contentment we are truly happy, and we put all the things we have to maximum benefit for ourselves and for others in terms of the Dharma. Then what about enduring? He endures another. Here endures refers to the Arhats. He lives anywhere, so sometimes the weather may not be very good, too hot, too cold, and then some places are a bit difficult to live in, but he endures all these difficulties, and through this endurance he's able to progress. Okay? It's not that he looks for difficult places to go to. I mean, monks usually would go to quiet places, peaceful places, but even then sometimes difficulties do arise. I mean, sometimes their bad karma may ripen. They don't create new karma, but some past karma may come back and trouble them. And so they are very patient. They endure the fruiting of such karma and so on. Like in the case of Angulimala, we find in the later part of his life, some villagers saw him and recall how he was when he was still a bandit and killed people, and then they threw rocks and stones and earth and sticks and so on, and hurt him and broke his bow. But he did not retaliate at all. He calmly just moved on. Okay. Then he avoids another. Here, this has to do with resort. In other words, the Arhat knows where he should go, where he should not go. For example, you wouldn't see a good monk in a shopping center or some amusement park. So those are places they will not go. So they will avoid places where people are not mindful, and so on. So in other words, when a monk appears in public, it is either for Dharma instructions or to kind of present themselves as a figure of peace, that others be inspired to practice the Dharma too. If they appear in the wrong place at the wrong time, then people will feel embarrassed, and people will not be able to see them for what they really are. So this is the original conception of a monk, that the monk is to present this inner peace. He's not meant to modernize. You don't modernize the fresh air. You don't have to modernize the mountains. You don't have to modernize the beautiful trees or the forest. They are there to give us a wonderful natural quality to our lives. Who need to change or what need to change are we ourselves. We don't change the Dharma, we change ourselves. So here is the meaning of to avoid. And then to remove. Here, removing whatever distracts us, whatever brings us danger. So in other words here, wherever he lives, he makes sure it is a safe place. And whatever he does, make sure there are no negative consequences and so on. Okay. So these are the four kinds of, four things that supports the Arhat. The next one, and how bhikshus is the monk one who has put aside personal truths. So we come to something of a higher level now. Here bhikshus, whatever for a monk are worldly personal truths of worldly recluses or Brahmins. That's to say, okay, here these are worldly opinions, speculations. These are, notice the 10 points, all right? The first 3 points about the world. Some people view the world as eternal, others say the world is not eternal, still others say the world is finite, and some others say the world is infinite. And then speculations about the self. There are those who say the self is the same as the body, and there are those who say the self and the body are separate or different. And then there is the state of the saint of the person after death, the posthumous state of a person. The Tathagata, or one thus come, or the saint, exists after death. That's one view. He does not exist after death. Another view. Both exist and does not exist. Third view. And the last one is neither exist nor not exist. You can take any of these stands and argue, and you will never come to any common agreement. So the Buddha said these 10 points, I don't teach these 10 points, don't bother about them. They're not helpful in any way. In fact, it's better not to know them if you want to really do your meditation properly and be enlightened. Because the best you can do when you discuss these 10 points are to show your personal opinions. So in a sense, as far as personal opinion goes, everyone is right. At the same time, if everyone is right, you can also say everyone is wrong. So they're not very helpful. They are private truths. In other words, they do not reflect true reality out there. It is one person's view of the world. So they're not really helpful. So this is something, all these, says the Buddha, he has put aside, pushed aside, given them up, discarded, abandoned, relinquished. In this way, bhikshus, the monk is one who has put aside personal truths. So notice here, the Buddha doesn't teach personal truth. He's not saying this is what I think, this is my opinion. He's saying, look out there, what do you see? Right? You see things changing all around you. Right? And this is not my opinion. You see it. Anyone will see this. Anyone who is wise enough, who is lucid enough. And whatever is impermanent, changing, is not satisfactory. Whatever is changing and unsatisfactory, you know very well you have no control over this thing. So there is no self there. And these are universal truths, whether there are Buddhas or not. But Buddhas arise and declare these truths to us and very clearly, so that we understand them well, we practice them, and we are free from suffering. But those are not personal truths. Number 6. And how bhikshus is among one who has completely given up seeking. Here, bhikshus, for the monk, seeking for pleasures has been abandoned. Seeking for existence has been abandoned. Seeking of the holy life has been abandoned. Okay, seeking for sensual pleasures is a very common pursuit. Lay people do, isn't it? We look for a nice home, a nice partner, nice food, nice this, nice that, right? Sensual pleasures. We like nice things to see, nice things to hear, and so on. They're not bad in themselves. I mean, there is this last group of practitioners called the lay people who are consumers of sensual pleasures, kama bhogi, those who enjoy sensual pleasures. And they also can be saints, because although they are lay people, they enjoy the pleasure of the senses, but within the limit of the 5 precepts. In other words, as lay people, not monks that is, and we're not on retreats, we can enjoy good food, see a show if you like, or do the job you like, without breaking the precepts. Or even if we do enjoy sensual pleasures, we know when to stop, in other words. So that is within the limit of the 5 precepts. Then number 2, not seeking for existence. Here, some people say, oh, I'm doing good deeds so that I can have a happy life in the future. I'm reborn in one of the heavens as a god. Or I'm doing this meditation because I want to be reborn in the form world or formless world as one of those great divine beings. But then those are very uncertain states. You fall from them, you're reborn, and you go into suffering states when your karma is not gone, karma is exhausted. So the purpose of practicing the Dharma is not to be reborn in some wonderful high state. It's to be free from suffering. Then the last one is very interesting. The Arhat does not seek, there's no seeking of the holy life for the Arhat anymore. In modern parlance, we say he does not shop around anymore. You find that whenever you go to any Buddhist center or any religious center for the matter, there are always people shopping around. Even in Buddhism, they go from teacher to teacher, and they never really practice. I mean, it's good to listen to teachers and different teachers and kind of follow the teachings and practice. Here, it's the collecting which is wrong. People kind of make a list of how many teachers they meet, and kind of feel great knowing this famous teacher and that famous teacher, but they themselves do not practice at all. That's the meaning here, shopping around. So here is where, if you really practice the Dharma and you understand the Dharma, you find whichever teacher you listen to, you say, that sounds familiar, and you find you can connect with any teacher. When you're good in one meditation, you find, in one system, you find you can also understand and practice any other system worth its name. So in other words, you commit yourself to practicing the Dharma, not in the diversity of how much you know, but how well you know the Dharma, so that you understand yourself. Then the 7th quality, and how bhikshus is among one with untroubling thoughts. Here bhikshus, for the monk, has abandoned the thought of sensuality, has abandoned the thought of ill will, has abandoned the thought of cruelty. Right? So here, no desires, no opposite of desire, this ill will, and not being violent to others. This is right thought, right? So here the monk's mind is pure. In other words, you might say an Arhat is naturally compassionate and always there. If you need help, you ask questions of the Dharma, this Arhat will answer for your benefit. Number 8. And how bhikshus is a monk one who has stilled bodily activity or calmed down bodily activity. Here bhikshus, a monk with the abandoning of joy and abandoning of pain, and with the earlier disappearance of pleasure and displeasure, attains and dwells in the 4th dhyana, that is neither painful nor pleasant, and with mindfulness fully purified with equanimity. Bhikshu, such a monk is one who has stilled the bodily formation. Here, the Arhat is one who is able to attain all the 4 jhanas. Right? So why is this important? I mean, even if you can attain the first jhana, it's quite significant. Because to be an Arhat, in other words, is to be a renunciant. To become a renunciant is to work towards being an Arhat. And a renunciant, an Arhat, does not indulge in sensual pleasures, in sex especially. Why? Because sexuality is an activity of the physical body. Now, of course in Buddhism we don't say sexuality is bad or wrong, but it depends on the circumstance. For lay people, they indulge in sexuality and sensual pleasures within the purview, the limits of the 5 precepts. But the renunciants take this vow, they take this decision, okay, I'm not going to get involved in all this physical sexuality anymore because I want to focus my mind and attain Arhathood. But how does he do that? He needs to meditate and attain jhana. And why is the jhana so important? Because the joy of jhana transcends all physical pleasures. It's only when you have tasted jhana are you able to give up sexual pleasure or pleasures of the body. Because jhana is the pleasure of pure mind. So once you have tasted that kind of beautiful mental pleasure, you find physical pleasure so gross, and you won't need them anymore. You won't be attracted to them anymore. So in other words, it's a high level way of feeling and enjoying feeling, if you like. So the Arhat has attained this jhana, so is able to let go of that kind of attachment or pleasure. So that's the meaning of this still the bodily formations. Another interesting point is that in the 4th jhana, the breath, as we know it, also stops. There is total silence, and this monk is really at peace. And of course, if the monk focuses in the 4th jhana properly and directs his mind towards attaining psychic powers, he can do that too. So it's a very wonderful level of meditation, in other words. Number 9, quality 9. And how bhikshus is among mentally well liberated. So we're talking something higher now, liberation. Here bhikshus, the monk's mind is liberated from greed. His mind is liberated from hatred. His mind is liberated from delusion. In this way, bhikshus, the monk is mentally well liberated. These are the 3 unwholesome roots. So in other words, the Arhat is never motivated by greed, hate or delusion anymore. Right? In other words, by the roots of suffering, is overcome all this. Greed, hate, delusion function at a pre-conscious level for us, right? So as lay people, if we keep the precepts well, then we guard ourselves against being pushed around, being bullied by greed, hate, delusion. Right? So we overcome greed with charity, generosity. We overcome hatred with loving kindness, compassion. We overcome delusion through studying the suttas, through the Sindro Dharma, in other words, with wisdom. But in the case of the Arhats, they have uprooted these 3 roots. And finally, the last one, characteristic number 10, and all bhikshus is among well liberated by wisdom. Here bhikshus among understands thus, lust has been abandoned by me, cut down at the root, made like a palm tree stump, put out of existence, of a nature never to arise again. Okay, look at this first quality, lust. It's very similar to greed, right? Look at the second quality, is hate, and the third quality is delusion. So this is a deeper aspect of the 3 roots. In fact, if you understand your basic dharma, here it refers to the 3 basic latent tendencies. In other words, deep down in the unconscious, you have even deeper roots of the unwholesome roots, greed, hate, delusion. In other words, greed, you go deeper, you have lust. Hatred, you go deeper, you have ill will. Delusion, you go deeper, you have ignorance. So here, in the case of the Arhat, he has uprooted everything right to the very tiniest roots, that is the latent tendencies, anusaya. They're all gone, uprooted. So notice the words, cut down at the root, right? So you know you have this grass here, and in the Southeast Asia. It's called lalang. Okay, and they have sharp serrated edges, and they can cut you like paper cuts. If you move to them and you're not mindful. And they're very hard to remove. I mean, you can have a mower and you mow them right on the ground level, everything is gone, and you come a few days later, you find, especially when there's rain, they start shooting up again. So you have to uproot them totally, so they don't grow again. So that's the meaning of cut down at the root. Made like a palm tree stump. Okay, here, take a coconut tree for example. Coconut tree is a palm tree. There are many kinds of palm trees. You have what's called a pinang tree or areca nut. Now, these palm trees, if you cut them at the stump, they won't grow again. This is their nature. Okay? And then put out of existence, our nature never to arise again. So it's totally overcome. You don't need to worry about them anymore, right? So this is the meaning of liberation by wisdom, because the Arhat is totally wise now. Then in the last paragraph, the Buddha says, Bhikshus, whichsoever monk in the past who lived in the noble abidings, they live in these very same 10 noble abidings. Bhikshus, whichsoever monks in the future who live in the noble abidings, they will all live in these very same 10 abidings. Bhikshus, whichsoever monks in the present who are living in the noble abidings, they all are living in this very same 10 noble abidings. Well, this is a very wonderful statement. It's saying that if you practice the Dharma, you find wherever you go, you speak this common language of peace, of clarity, of happiness, whether it's in the past, present, or future. There's no special edition here. It's all the same Dharma wherever you go. So if you practice the Dharma, this is the common joy that you experience. And we end the sutta here. Okay, now we do a short reflection to finish off. Right, this is our first study in this Chinese New Year of the goat. This is to remind us the Dharma is still available, present in our lives. So it's very important for us to make an effort to study the suttas for our own happiness, or when we are needed to help others. We have the right tools to be able to help and heal others. And this Dharma is, in a way, is very simple. It's simple enough if you understand the nature of the suttas. And with your meditation, the meaning of the suttas become even more clear to you. And with compassion, you find you're able to help others more effectively. Reflecting in this way is very good mental karma, by the power of such karma and many other good deeds we have done. Maybe aspire to spiritual liberation, especially stream winning in this life itself. In this moment of peace also, let us send out our loving kindness to everyone here, all the beings here, and to our loved ones, to our teachers and people we know. May they be well, may they be happy. And let us also send out our loving kindness to all the other beings, especially people whom the Dharma have not touched, that they may see the Dharma, hear the Dharma, and their lives become better as a result, even awaken in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.